So hey everybody, I'm going to try and do another one of these TI-84 instruction videos on an ability to do a scatter plot. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to put some data in. So I'm going to do second plus and hit number 4 button, clear all lists, hit enter so it says done. That should remove any of my data. I hit stat and then edit. You can see it L1 and L2 are open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some data that I know works for me. So I'm going to put in -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to make this data, I just hit the right arrow to get up to column L2. I'm going to make this data be something that I know that works. So I'm going to do it as a quadratic. So my first number is going to be 9, because -3 squared is 9. And then 4, and then 1, 0, 1, 4, 9, and then 16. Okay, so now I've got a set of data in here, and we talked before, if you've seen the videos on histograms or box and whisker plots, that only entitles one set of data, and I'm going to do 2. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to do is I want to look at the data. So I'm going to go second y equals and turn plot number 1 on. I'm going to hit my down arrow so that it's blinking on this little graph right here. That's a scatter plot. And as soon as I hit enter, you'll see this L1 will change to an L1 and L2 because scatter plots require 2 variables. I do want to do L1 and L2, and I do want to mark it with a box. Okay? Now before I go ahead and look at it by hitting graph, I want to make sure my window is set up to see this data. So I hit the window button, and you'll remember, I hope, that I put the x's in from like -3, so I'm going to do -5, a little bit to the left of it, to 4, so I'm going to do 6. So from -5 to 6, and I'm going to have these go up by 1. That's what scale is, how often it puts a tick mark. My y min, I'm going to usually do that after I do y max. So you know my y max was 16, right? So I'm going to y max out at 20, and just so that I can see the bottom of my screen, I'm going to y min out at -5. I know my data point is the lowest one is 0, but I want a bigger gap. I actually am going to put tick marks every 5. Not that that's essential to it, but maybe beneficial. Okay? Everybody good on the window? So now I'm going to go ahead and hit my y equals, and I'm just checking to make sure that I don't have any equations in any of these spots, because I don't want them in there. I don't want that to mess up with what I'm doing. So I go ahead and hit graph, and you can see that I have all of these data points in here. Now, when I have this data, I look at this and I go, man, that sure looks like it's a quadratic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if there's an equation that will match with it. So I hit the button stat, I go over to calc, and button number 5 stands for quadratic regression, and that is what I'm going to hit. And when I do a quadratic regression, I'm trying to find a quadratic equation that matches that data. On the older calculators, it will automatically default to L1 and L2, so you don't have to type anything in here. But on the newer calculators, this is where you would put it. So you can see my Y list is L4. I don't want that. So I'm going to do second L2. I'm going to go down here to store regression equation. Now, this is where you would want to make sure on the older calculators you still do this. So this is right after you've hit quad reg before you hit enter. It'll say quad reg up at the top. And right here, where I'm going to put this in, you would put it in right after quad reg. And you hit these 4 buttons. Vars, yvars, function. And then you pick whichever one of these you would like the equation to go into. I'm going to go ahead and pick y1. And then I simply hit enter. And it all of a sudden gives me this equation. And you can see that it is exactly that. The a, the coefficient in front of the quadratic term, is 1 because I graphed or I plotted the points as x squared. There's no b and there's no c because my equation didn't shift off of it. It doesn't tell me an r value, but it tells me r squared is 1. And of course, the only number that you can square to get 1 in this situation that we're having is another 1. Okay? Now, what's cool about what we just did with the vars, yvars, function, and y1, is now when I hit y equals, you can see that it copies that equation in there. And now I can go ahead and hit graph, and you'll see that it goes right through those points. Okay? I'm going to tweak just a little bit now because I want to make sure that you understand how those R's work and what it means. So I'm going to go stat, edit. I'm going to change one of these numbers. So we know that -2 should get me 4. So this time I'm going to do 3.8, which means it won't be perfect anymore. I'm going to change another one down here. Let's make this 3 be 9.5. So the 9 that was down here for the 3, because 3 squared is 9, I'm going to make it 9.5, which means if I go ahead and clear out, I hit y equals, and I clear out that equation, if I do a new quadratic regression, it will show me a different thing. So I'm going to go stat, calc, number 5, quadratic regression. Remember how we said we want to go store regression equation? So I hit vars, yvars, function, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in y1 again. And you'll see now it tweaked it. Okay, I couldn't fit a perfect one before it, but the R value is still really close, 0.999. It shows me that A is 1, B is 0.039, C is 0.0077. So it's off just a smidge. Really a good fit though. Go ahead and hit graph, and now you can see the data points going through this. I could still do this if I wanted to with a linear regression. But do you agree that these points don't look really much like they're in a straight line? I'm going to go ahead and show you the equation just so you can see it. Stat, calc, number 4, linear regression. And I'm going to go ahead and store that regression equation in y2. So I hit vars, yvars, function y2, and calculate. You can see this one's R value is 0.461. Pretty mean, which means that it's not very good. However, it's the best that technology can do. Just means the data isn't linear. So go ahead and hit the graph button, and you can see that that line right here is the closest line the calculator can fit to that data. But pretty obvious with the R value of that 0.461 that it's not very good fit. Okay? Hope this was helpful for you in terms of doing scatter plots and changing windows and doing regression analysis. Thanks.